You're taught that there are old men in alleys. You're not told that a friend, a socialite, a woman.
I met Maxwell and Epstein when I was just 16 years old through my sister, Maria Farmer. We were both abused, and I'm going to be testifying at her trial.
Without Ghislaine's help, Jeffrey Epstein could never have abused
more than 500.
Ghislaine Maxwell is currently serving 20 years for helping Jeffrey Epstein carry out his crimes. She has exhausted her appeals, and it doesn't look like she's getting out anytime soon. But before her sentencing, before the world fully turned on her, Ghislaine Maxwell was still well connected. She was still moving through elite circles that honestly should have known better. Now, newly resurfaced victim statements and court documents are raising fresh questions about just how wide Ghislaine Maxwell's network really was. And one name keeps popping up in the speculation: Ellen DeGeneres, the so-called queen of daytime kindness, a woman whose name has appeared in Epstein-related discussions, and a woman who, according to unverified claims circulating online, Maxwell allegedly begged for help. So today, we're breaking down Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction, the victim statements, the suspicious deaths allegedly connected to her, and the unanswered questions people keep asking. What did Ellen DeGeneres really know about Ghislaine Maxwell? And why does Hollywood suddenly go silent every time her name comes up?
She had this invisible butterfly net. And she would go out in the social scene in London and New York, and she would whisk her net and capture the beautiful people, the rich, the famous, the powerful people. It coated her, with a veneer of respectability.
Ghislaine Maxwell was born into privilege. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was a media tycoon and one of the most powerful figures in British public life during the 1970s and 1980s. He ran a publishing empire that included the Mirror newspapers, and more importantly, he moved in circles filled with prime ministers, royalty, and global elites. From a young age, Ghislaine had access to connections most people could only dream of. She was raised in a world where access was currency, and her father held the keys. She later attended Oxford University, and according to people who knew her back then, Ghislaine was basically the queen bee on campus. She surrounded herself with wealthy and influential people, and those who remember her described her as beautiful, privileged, and ambitious, someone determined to step into the lifestyle she always believed she deserved. Her father helped place her into a job in football club management at one of the teams he owned. By the time she was 22, she was already among the club executives, and she also worked for the Mirror Group newspapers, helping promote sweepstakes. She was learning early how power works, how connections operate, and how influence is built. The Maxwell family was deeply connected within British high society, including members of the royal family. Prince Andrew reportedly met Ghislaine at Oxford, and their friendship continued for years, later becoming a major point of public scrutiny. Around this time, Ghislaine was becoming a well-known socialite, recognized for her glamorous presence at major parties and elite events worldwide. Photographer Davis Jones even recalled capturing her in photos and being struck by how much she stood out. She wasn't just showing up, she was making sure she was seen. One of Robert Maxwell's most prized possessions was his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, named after his youngest daughter. It symbolized his wealth, his power, and his pride in her. But years later, that same yacht would become a stepping stone into the infamous world of Jeffrey Epstein, and into a scandal that would shake the entire world.
Can you list for me all the girls that you have met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's house that were under the age of 18?
Check the form of foundation.
I could only recall my family members that were there, and I could not make a list of anyone else because that never happened. But I can think of.
I'm talking about during the time that you were working for Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
Can you list all the girls that you found for Jeffrey Epstein that were under the age of 18 to come work for him in any capacity?
Check the form of foundation.
So I didn't find girls, I didn't look for them.
Ghislaine Maxwell's connections grew over time, especially after she met Jeffrey Epstein. As they worked together, her influence extended from Britain to the United States. She became involved in his world and played a key role in his activities. Recently released statements from victims give more insight into how Maxwell operated. One person described their first visit to an older man's home in Palm Beach, arranged by Maxwell. She was offered money to give massages, which acted as a way to introduce her to Epstein. Maxwell would meet young girls, gain their trust, and gradually connect them to Epstein. For many, they were too young or inexperienced to understand the situation or know how to step away.
Search through pictures of almost any society event of the 90s and 2000s, and you'll probably see her, Ghislaine Maxwell. Sometimes she's dead center in frame, living it up, but occasionally you catch her on the dark periphery of a photo. And those are the perplexing portraits that emerge of Ghislaine Maxwell. On one hand, the graceful socialite, and on the other, according to her accusers, a woman who lurked at the edge of high society, scouting and procuring young women to give to Jeffrey Epstein. But maybe the most perplexing thing, despite the intense scrutiny of Epstein's crimes and her possible role in them, Ghislaine Maxwell has largely disappeared, and many of her alleged victims are still without justice.
Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested by the FBI in New Hampshire. She had been living in hiding, tucked away in a large property, keeping a low profile ever since Epstein was taken into custody. The world watched as she was walked out in handcuffs. She was charged with recruiting victims for Epstein and playing a direct role in serious criminal activity. Her trial quickly became one of the most watched cases in modern history. She was found guilty and is now serving a 20-year sentence in federal prison. Virginia Giuffre was the first person to publicly link Maxwell to Epstein. She claimed Maxwell recruited her when she was only 16 and forced her into abusive situations involving powerful men, including Prince Andrew. She described multiple encounters, some of which allegedly happened on Epstein's private island. Prince Andrew has denied any wrongdoing. He has never been criminally charged, but in 2022, he settled Giuffre's civil lawsuit, a deal many people saw as an admission of guilt, even though he continued to insist he was innocent. Giuffre has spoken openly about the fear she lived with for years. She said she was stalked and threatened. She claimed powerful people tried to pressure her into silence, but she refused to back down. And that pattern of intimidation points to something bigger, not just Epstein and Maxwell, but an entire network of people with a reason to keep victims quiet, people with the money to hire investigators, people who can intimidate without ever leaving fingerprints.
Great way of normalizing that was going on. They kind of made it feel like we were in this really deranged family.
But as with everything in this story, even that was a facade. The alleged truth is uglier. If someone spurned his advances, or worse, dared to leave the Epstein slave ring, Ghislaine allegedly morphed into an enforcer. That included physical threats, according to alleged victim Maria Farmer.
She told me I needed to watch my back, that I know you like to go running on the West Side Highway, and that's not going to be a safe place for you anymore because there are a lot of ways to die on the West Side Highway.
When Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested, the world expected her to start talking, to name names, and to expose the network of powerful people that had protected her and Epstein for decades. But she didn't say a word. She stayed silent, refused to identify any co-conspirators, and even hinted that Epstein was taken out and that the people responsible were still walking free. And that silence has become one of the most frustrating and suspicious parts of this entire case because it left the public with more questions than answers. And once that happened, the internet did what it always does and started filling in the blanks with speculation, with people claiming Maxwell may have struck secret deals with celebrities, politicians, and wealthy elites to keep their names buried. And while those claims are unproven and there's no solid evidence to confirm them, one name that keeps showing up in online conversations is Ellen DeGeneres, mostly because critics point to the timing of her show ending and her sudden move to the UK happening around the same time Maxwell's legal situation was unfolding. And Ellen did sell her Montecito mansion and later bought an estate in the English countryside, with her representatives insisting she simply wanted a quieter life and a fresh start after nearly 2 decades of nonstop television. And to be clear, there is no proof that Ellen's move has anything to do with Maxwell or the Epstein files, but her name does appear in Epstein-related documents, not in criminal accusations, but in news clippings and forwarded emails, and she has never been charged with or accused of any crime. Yet the speculation hasn't stopped because some people claim leaked deposition footage shows inconsistencies in Maxwell's stories about Ellen, while others point to supposed similarities between Ellen's show set and Epstein's island, comparing design choices, personal items, and aesthetic details that they say look strangely familiar.
Did you see Ellen DeGeneres' set on her show was the same set as the Epstein Island?
Oh boy, you gotta relax.
What we doing? Bro, check it. Bro, look at it. Bro, the set.
What's going on?
Bro, it's crazy, bro.
So is Moana taking place on Epstein Island?
Bro, I don't know.
What's Sebastian and Ariel on Epstein Island?
When you get a moment, go online and look at her.
Now, some claim Maxwell at one point asked Ellen for help to get out of Epstein's world, but no proof has been provided to back this up. Maxwell's silence has created a vacuum, and in that vacuum, speculation has run wild. Some of it may be rooted in fact, most of it is not. The challenge for anyone following this case is separating what is documented from what is imagined. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years in federal prison, and she is by any measure one of the most notorious criminals of her generation. But the prison where she is held is not what most imagine. Federal Prison Camp Bryan in Texas is a minimum security facility. Some outlets have called it a country club, while others have reported on its recreational amenities, including an athletic field, a library, vocational training programs, and access to service dogs. The perception is clear. Maxwell is not suffering. She is not in a harsh, unforgiving environment. She is in a place where conditions are comfortable, rules are lax, and perks are plentiful. Then there is a detail that has captured the attention of those who have followed this case closely. Female inmates at Bryan are allotted 2 rolls of toilet paper per week, with some ordering extra from the commissary at $2.25 per roll to avoid running out. Not Ghislaine Maxwell. She is given as much toilet paper as she needs. All she has to do is ask. A small thing perhaps, but a telling one. Rules that apply to other inmates do not appear to apply to her. Sources familiar with Maxwell's life in prison have confirmed this to multiple news outlets. The benefit is real, the privilege is well documented, and it raises an uncomfortable question. Why is Jeffrey Epstein's most notorious accomplice being treated differently? Maxwell's lawyers have not commented on her conditions, and the Bureau of Prisons has not explained why she received special treatment, but the perception is clear. The woman who helped Epstein prey on the vulnerable is being protected even behind bars. People are not wondering why Ghislaine Maxwell is getting these special privileges, and who is making sure she doesn't suffer. So wait, she commits a crime, then goes to jail to be protected for the crime she committed. It sounds that way since she is practically a permanent tenant at a hotel. She has more rights in prison than her own victims surviving outside. Why do I sense she may be safer in prison than outside of it?
At one point, she was getting her meals and mail delivered to her cell. She's also been allowed to use the chaplain's office inside the chapel for guests visiting outside of visitation hours. And Maxwell's arrival at this prison has really had a chilling effect on the other inmates there. We're told that the warden at the prison had a town hall where she basically told all the inmates, do not talk about Maxwell. And one inmate who did talk to a reporter was reprimanded and sent out of Bryan to a higher security prison. And we are told that this kind of thing has happened to several other inmates. The Bureau of Prisons tells CNN that this is not special treatment, but necessary treatment, given how high profile Maxwell is and the threats that have been made to Maxwell.
The Epstein scandal continues to unravel, revealing a tangled web of coercion, cover-ups, and the involvement of powerful figures in entertainment and politics. Maxwell's silence and the unusually comfortable conditions she enjoys in prison suggest ongoing protection for those implicated. Suspicious deaths of victims and associates add an even darker dimension to the story. With the Truth Commission and additional file releases on the horizon, more revelations are expected, keeping the public eager for transparency and justice for survivors. This story is far from over, and as new evidence comes to light, it's vital to stay informed and demand accountability from all involved. So what do you think? Are these connections simply coincidences, or is there a much larger conspiracy being carefully concealed?